Like you didn't shared your screen at right.
Okay. Okay. The acronym for ADO.NET is ActiveX Data Object for .NET. So it is a middle layer in between front end and back end. Front end and back end. What does it means? Means front end is nothing but our web UI technologies. So for example, whatever we develop our application, if we develop our application with a .NET, so our front end is nothing but our .NET. If we develop our application with Java, front end is our Java. Like so backend is nothing but database. So say if you consider SQL Server as a database, then we have backend is SQL Server. Or MySQL, then it is a MySQL is a back. In between your front end and back end, you require one middle layer. That middle layer is nothing but ADO.NET for .NET. Okay. Here, by using ADO.NET, we can deal with multiples of namespaces, and respective classes. So, whenever we are going to deal with ADO.NET, we require some basic things. So some namespaces are required. Those namespaces are using system.data. This is one namespace is required. Similarly, we required one more thing using system.data.sql client. Because we are dealing with SQL Server. There is a reason where we can use SQL client. If you are dealing with Oracle, then you can use Oracle client. Likewise, we have different things. Depends upon the database. This namespace may vary. Okay. Suppose if you are dealing with other databases, then you can use OLEDB. Okay, that is also another type of namespace. But our target of our course is SQL Server, so that I can make use of SQL client. So these are the basic namespaces, and as per the requirement, these namespaces keep on increasing. Okay, suppose if you are going to deal with data table, so we can use that data table. Suppose if you are going to deal with SQL commands, we can make use this. So likewise, not SQL command, it's nothing but our data adapters. Okay, so we have data adapters class. So likewise, we can extend this as per our requirement. So table comes with columns and rows. Whenever we are dealing with rows and columns classes, then we can make use of this. Like these are the different namespaces, and we keep on extending depends upon a requirement. So this namespace contains a different number of classes. Suppose whenever we are going to deal with data, we can use first basically whenever we are going to deal with the data, first we should prepare the data, right? So preparation of data will be priorly taking place with the help of our connection and command object. So first step to connect with data basis, first we can import or we can include all the respective namespaces. This is our first step. Next step is declare connection object. Declare connection object. First, we should establish a connection from our front-end application to back-end application. So a barrier is required. So that is nothing but connection object. Syntax for connection object is derived from SQL connection class. So SQL connection con equal to new SQL connection. So here you can pass in this double quotes, we can pass our connection string. You can pass our connection string. Okay. So this connection string contains following things. Connection string contains following things. One is data source. Data source is nothing but, so generally suppose if you are dealing with different types of sources, suppose if you are dealing with public repository, then we can use IP address of particular data source. Suppose my data is there in, like, I have my data in my office, like you have like this 54.202.183.994, like that. We have some IP address for the database. Okay. Suppose if you are dealing with your local database, means I install my database in my machine, then you no need to write all the stuff. Just you can write like this. Data source equal to, you can write localhost, or you can write dot. Dot indicates that your current system, or you can write name of your computer. Means your computer name will get to know by going with my computer. Go to my computer, just right click and go to the properties. So here you can get to know the computer name. So computer name is Virendra PC. Either you can use your computer name, or either you can use the localhost. Sometimes localhost may not be recognized, or you can use directly your local, or simply dot. Dot means current system. If you are connecting with the private repositories, if they provided this kind of IP address, by using that IP address you can connect. Okay. So your connection string contains this as one property. Next is user ID. They will provide some user ID. Default user ID for our local system is SCA. When you install your SQL Server machine, defaultly it is SCA only. And password depends upon our settings. At the time of installation of a SQL Server, it asks for password. We can check what are the password is required, what are the password that we given at the time of installation that we can use. Okay. So for example, my password is ABC, and you can give database name. Database equal to, so my database is, say for example, global. I want to give my database name as a global, which I already created in SQL Server. So these are the components of connection string. First we can initialize this SQL connection class. In this SQL connection class contains connection string. Connection string contains these many things. One is data source, and other is user ID, and other is password, and other is database. Okay. See, there will be two types of modes of connectivity with my database, with our SQL Server database. First is, so generally I just opened my SQL Server. SSMS is a shortcut key for opening of a SQL Server. Just I'm using SQL Server 2008 R2. So when I try to open this, so generally it prompts for a few things. One is server name, and other is authentication, and other is username and password. Okay. Authentication contains two types, SQL Server and other is Windows Server. So SQL Server authentication, and the next is Windows authentication. Difference is, when you connect with SQL Server, it asks for user ID and password. When you use Windows authentication, it doesn't ask for anything. Asks for user ID and password. See, let me show you. Server name dot. So Windows SQL Server, it is asking for username and password. If you use Windows authentication, just you can directly connect with the database, which indicates that which is a secure way of communicating, which is non-secure way of communicating. Okay, even in production systems we can provide username and password, but in local systems, generally in QA or something stage in UAT environments, it's not necessary to go with SQL Server and authenticant and all those things. It depends upon the company and depends upon the project. Okay, yeah, at the time of installation of our SQL Server, there will be mode of selection, means either you have to select Windows authentication mode, or either you can select with the SQL Server authentication mode. If you select mixed mode, means both will be available. If you select mixed mode, means both will be available. So here this is the way of communication with SQL Server. Suppose if you choose Windows authentication to communicate with your system, then your connection string will be like this. How it will be means, there will be no user ID and password, right? Instead of user and password, user ID and password, we should make this as integrated security equal to true. Instead of user and password, we can use like this: integrated security is true. Means we are assuring to the system that internal security we are following. So by passing data source, by passing integrated security, and by passing database, we are able to connect our system. Once you initialize this SQL connection class, then by using this object we can make user con.open, this connection.open. So which indicates that your connection is available for do some kind of operations with the database. Okay, you can write whatever the necessary code that you want, and finally once you're done with all tasks, you can make use of con.close. In this way we are able to communicate with the SQL Server. These are the basic steps for connection of SQL Server from front-end application to back-end application. So far, am I clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now I want to interact with the database. See, actually, at the time of installation, I forgot what my password is. So at the time we have to set, right, at the time of installation of my SQL Server, I forgot to remember my password at the time. So that's the reason where I'm able to provide my password. That's the reason where I selected Windows authentication. Okay, I just connect with Windows authentication. So when you click on connect, automatically it will be connected. So in your left side pane, you have some things like you have databases. These are the different databases. You have a test database. So this is my user-defined test database. In system and database snapshots are already been available once you install your machine. Once you install your SQL Server, in text you can expand. These are the different things for database. So we mostly deal with, as a programmers, we are going to deal with tables, views, and in programmability we have a stored procedures. Okay, these are the main functional area for our. So security, storage, and all those things, this will be taken care by the database administrators. Okay, so just I want to create one database. So steps for creating a database. So click on new query. Here you have a new query pane. Just you can write this as a syntax for creating of a database. Okay, July 2017. I created my database. You can check in this list. You have July 17. Sorry. So likewise, if you refresh this means, right click on just refresh means that July 2017 is created. Okay. If it is created, if you want to do all the operations with that, you can use July 2017 and execute this one. Execution means select it and click F5. Automatically you will get July 2017 is available here. Means from now whatever we are going to do the operations, all the operations will be saved under July 2017 database, because we selected the database particularly. Okay, in this way we are going to create a database. So now I want to create a table and database. This syntaxes you can remember or you can write at the time of my writing or at the time of my explanation. You can write sample so that it was very easy to memorize or recollect the same thing again and again. Now I want to if you want to take a new window for operations, just click on Control N or else click on New Query, so that new query window will be appeared for you. So you can write a syntax for a table, how to create a table. See, your database is a collection of tables. Okay, collection of tables. SQL Server is a RDBMS, Relational Database Management System. It possesses some relations from table to table or from column to column. Table is a collection of rows and columns in which it has to maintain its own integrity constraints. Its own integrity constraint means, say for example, I want to save some data whose data doesn't falls under less than 0 and it should not be greater than 100. There I would like to write some constraint. Means I have to write some condition at the time of a table creation, so that it always ensuring that your values are in the range of 0 to 100 only. Okay, consider a case for marks. Your maximum marks is 100 and your minimum marks is 0, which is not we should not be less than 0 and we should not be greater than 100. At that point of time we should create some constraint for the columns. So this is nothing but integrity constraints. Suppose if you don't want to save duplicate values, I have my ID is 123. I don't want to keep on writing, or I don't want to keep on inserting my data into the table. So just you can make that column as a primary key, so that at only first time it will save the value. If you are trying to attempt one more time or one more save, then it automatically refuses to accept the data. Instead of that, it raises an error that failing primary key constraint, some kind of error you are going to receive. Means there will be sort of rules and regulations in order to save a data. So these rules and regulations we have to provide at the time of table creation. Am I clear? So this is syntax for table. Create a table, table name. So I want to give my table name TBL student, which was in best practice that you should always follow the syntaxes and semantics. Along with syntax and semantics, you should follow the coding standards. So TBL is an extension, like you should always start with the TBL, so that we can understand that which is an user defined table. Suppose if a table belongs to some other module, so you can give the module name underscore TBL student, like that also you can give, because in order to separate tables from this module to that module. So TBL student, and we can pass what are the columns that you want, you can pass those columns. Suppose I want ID as a column, ID which is an integer data type, and I can make use of identity of 1 comma of 1 something, like you can use anything. If you use 1 comma 1 means it always starts with 1 and keep on incrementing with 1 1 1. If you give 100 comma 5 means it always starts with 100 and it keep on increment with 5, 100, 105, 110, 115, like that we can make. So I want to make it as an identity column which always starts with 1 and which always increment with 1. If you are not providing anything means automatically taken as 1 as an initial value and increment value as 1. Okay, there is no need of providing the definition. So here I want to create a primary key for this column. So I can use primary key. Okay, next name, student name. So here we have a in order to accommodate data types, or in order to accommodate data for these columns, we have different data types which are available with the database. If I want to accommodate string data, I can make use of varchar or nvarchar as a data type. Okay, varchar or nvarchar. varchar of, you can provide the size, means 500 means 500 length it will accept, 100 means 100 size it will accept. If your size is maximum, then you can give maximum. Don't give maximum until and unless it is a mandatory to give a max. So many columns are restricted, falls under 100 or 50 or 20. Use whatever the size that you want. If you are using maximum, means automatically it will be one of the performance. It means your database occupies more space for that column. Again, whether you are using or not, buffer will be created for that column. If you are using, means it's okay, it's fine. If you are not using, means it is again, database performance hit. So I can make use of varchar of 100. Difference between unvarchar and varchar is, unvarchar will take all Latin information, which indicates that any type of information that you can save with the help of unvarchar. Means you can save English information, you can save Hindi information, you can save Telugu text, you can save any other Chinese text, any text you can save whenever you are going to deal with unvarchar. Okay. If it is varchar, means which is plainly dealing with normal English. Key name, serial number, and I can make use of qualification. This also an varchar of 20. Next, percentage. So this you can take, we have an integer classification and decimal calculations, and like we have many things. Integer also divided into tiny int and int, big int. How we have int 16, 32, 64 in our front end, likewise we have many. Like I want to take integer. If you want to take decimal also you can take. No problem. So it all depends upon our requirement. So I want to take integer, and as well as DOG, date of joins. Okay, date of join, date, time. So in this way we can create our table. Okay, if you have any other columns you can keep extended, no problem. Okay, I want next to is active bit. If you want to store true false values in database, there is no boolean, it is bit in database. Okay, bit means either you can say 1 or 0. 1 indicates true, 0 indicates false. So default 0, which default 1, which means that whenever we are trying to add a data, if we are failed to pass is active field, then automatically that value will be considered as a 1. Okay, no need to pass this value externally. Means we are in, our intention is, once we entered our record in database, that is active is always true, means 1. Once after that, few days after, if that student may left from our organization or what, so then we can make that flag to update that flag to 0. Okay, at initially they will be in active state only. That's the reason where I give default. Suppose in default and as well as in percentages also, if our intention is to pass constraint between 0 and 100, percentage between 0 and 1. Likewise, we can make use of our own declarations with the help of our table creation. So just I want to place here. I want to execute. If you want to execute it, just you can select from first to last, and you can make use of this green button, debug button, or else you can click on F5, so that if you get an information like command completed successfully, which means that your table is created in your database, that is your database is July 2016. Once you can refresh it and you can check July 2017, expand your database and expand your tables, so your table is there. Now how to insert your data into the table? That is our next question. So in order to get the data from your SQL server, we can make use of select star from TBL student. Okay, when you select this, automatically whatever the table that you have, the table structure is replicated here. ID, serial number, qualification, percentage, DOG is active. Okay, so now how to insert your data into the table? That is our next question. Insert into TBL student means our table name of, we can pass our column names, what are the columns that we want to pass. Suppose serial name, S name, student name, and the qualification and percentage, DOH. See, I don't want to pass ID. If your ID is an identity column, no need to pass value to the identity column. Okay, it's not an optional, it's mandatory. If you are trying to pass some value to the ID, then automatically it raises an error. So that if you mark your column as an identity, how you mark here, then no need to pass that identity column value. It keep on incrementing depends upon their existing value. And student name we have to pass, qualification we have to pass, percentage we have to pass, DOG we have to pass. Is active is optional. By default it is 1. If you want to pass your is active value also, you can pass either 1 or 0. You can pass at the time of table creation, at the time of value insertion. So I don't want to pass because I defaultly marked it as 1. So values, and here you can pass. If it is a string data, if you are trying to pass a string data in SQL Server, you can quote it with single quotes. You can enclose it with single quotes, single quote, and you can write whatever you want. Say for example, Rekha and qualification. So for example, MS and percentage. You can give, if it is an integer column, no need to enclose it with a single quotes. You can pass like this directly, integer value means. And deposit, it is also date time. So date time, you no need to, generally we can make use of a get date function. Select get date function. When you are using get date function means automatically you get the current date. But we want to insert some date for this. Just for a get date, you can enclose with a single quote. Okay, first 05/06/2017. Just you can close it. These are the 4 input parameters that we are trying to pass for this table. Just insert it. When you execute this, automatically one row affected, means one row was inserted. When you check here, you have some data, some data is available for you. Suppose if you are trying to pass, so he may join 06/06. So now I'm trying to execute this one, so that again data is 80. So first record 1 and next record is 2. Likewise, your records, your data information, your information is keep on incrementing, depends upon the number of records. This is about insertion statement. Okay. Now I want to take to Visual Studio how you are going to connect with the database. Okay. So far, am I clear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Just go to Visual Studio. Just go to File, New Project. Here I want to take online. I want to take a new folder, that is LDO. Just go to web, go to select ASP.NET Empty Web Application and browse, set the path. Okay. ADO, ADO, just I created one of the empty web-based project. First I want to take new web form. I want to name it as home.aspx. First of all, I want to take one table which contains a one column and one row. Okay, and as well as go to the toolbox. I want to take one button and go to the properties of a button, and I want to check. I want to pass some data as a text, that is check connection, and here btn check. Okay, double click on this and we can write our code. So first we have to follow steps, that is using system.data. Similarly using system.data.sql client. Okay, these two namespaces we have to add, and then we can initialize our SQL connection con. Okay, in our button click I want to initialize my connection con equal to new SQL connection. Okay, server equal to dot integrated security, because I connected through Windows authentication, no need to pass user ID and password. That's the reason where I use integrated security equal to true, and database equal to, so we use the database is July 2017. You can pass the database name. Okay. Con.open means we are trying to open our connection. Con dot so just response dot write connection established successfully. Con dot close. Once you're done with your operation, just try to close your connection. Why? Because if connection is ideal, if you're working with a web-based environment, we have a multiple hits to the server. So if our connection is keep on open means ideal time for the next client will be wasted. It won't serve for the next client if it is keep on open means. So that it was the best practice. Once you're done with your own task, then close your connection. That's it. Now I want to execute this one, and as well as I want to put a breakpoint here also in order to examine the flow of our front-end application. Uh, when I click on check connection, my breakpoint hit here. So connection object. So integrated segment. Hello. Hello. Hello? Hello?